Welcome to the Proshare Hard Facts program. I'm Otoba Sebasekon. We have a conversation here every time we are seated to look at developments around the economy, financial markets, and the business space, and how it relates to policymakers, the households, and businesses. This edition is quite interesting as we're looking at how best to use local commodities exchanges to foster national economic productivity. At the floor of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, I have as our guest Mr. Akinsola Akeredolu-Ale. He's the CEO of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, LCFE. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Great day.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
And joining me, as usual, as a discussant on this conversation is Mr. Teslim Shitabe.
Thank you.
Director of Research Program. Always nice having this.
It's nice being on this program. Thank you very much also.
Thank you very much. Today is a very big day. Later today, you'll be launching a very significant product in your market. So let's begin by understanding what are the global trends shaping the commodities markets.
Well, first of all, I think that the universal language now all over the world now is technology. So effectively, where there's technology, you don't have, whether you're Chinese, you're Indian, you're Nigerian, we can communicate, we can do transactions together now. And that on its own is creating a very big movement towards industrialization. And as this technology is coming up, it makes it easier for us to have access to data, access to information, global best practice, what is going on in the local international environment. Now, it's been able to create an environment whereby the demand that's in the commodity space now is moving from volume to value. Now, gone are the days when people just come to Africa, come to Nigeria, with 30% of the commodity resources that's used globally come from Africa. Yeah. They come in, they take cocoa beans, take it away, prepare cocoa butter, do chocolate, send it back to Africa. Well, after beneficiation, they sell it to us. Take lithium, take it out, then send it back to us. Take iron ore, send it back to us. Now there's a movement towards beneficiation and production, whereby people are now moving towards either they move it to semi-processed status or the full processed status. So you see that now Africans now are now processing their cocoa beans to cocoa butter now. So what will have generated maybe like $3,500 per metric tons. Now you're now looking at $14,000 per metric ton. So when there's beneficiation, the value increases significantly more than what you get when you sell the raw materials. And Africa is now taking advantage of this from data, from technology, and from access to information. People are now understanding that you could do better from that. That is one of the aspects that we're seeing. Then the other part is the commodities securitization. People have started realizing now that it's possible for you to, without doing sports market alone, you can do commodity instruments like trader, which is done globally in other countries. In some countries, they've been doing commodities trading with instruments since 1928. Some hedge funds in the other parts of the world, they galvanize resources together, send them to Africa to come and take these goods from Africa for beneficiation over there. So these instruments are creating opportunities now for people to see that, okay, it's possible for us to also create instruments, fungible instruments, to aggregate this into the space and be able to build and scale up capacity in whatever we're doing in the commodity space. So Africa is moving very fast, and is also affecting what we call intra-Africa trade, whereby the Africans now from the Francophone countries to Anglophone countries to other countries, because technology makes it easier to communicate. I can sit down with you at the conference now. I'll be speaking English, and you'll be, if you are French, you'll be hearing what I'm saying in French. So it makes it easier for everything to be done there. Then the other part is the global shift that has to do with the economic outlook and the social outlook in the global space. If you look at what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, there's real disruption in the supply chain, which everybody had assumed that maybe 1 year down the line, it will be over, 2 years down the line, it will be over. Now it's becoming protracted. We're talking about years on end now that this is ongoing. Now you now have drought in Latin America now, whereby the economy and the climate change is affecting things over there. So you just discover that there's a continuous change, continuous shift. I cannot remove the fact that Africa is blessed. We have arable land, we have good climate, we have everything. And Africans are coming up, we have a teeming population that's coming up now, and everybody's waking up to say, okay, we want to control our resources. And this gradually is changing the structure. And when you now start putting the structured instruments into this environment that allows Africans to be able to mobilize capital towards the commodities ecosystem, then you have a complete economy. And that is the part that we're playing from Nigeria. Nigeria is a very, very critical component of Africa. We always lead in a lot of things. By the time we get to try it in the structured products that can become tradable in the commodity ecosystem, you will discover that it will go around to West Africa, it will go around to Africa, it will become a Pan-African thing for us. And those are the things that LCFE has been doing. And that's why we always say that we are looking at ourselves as a Pan-African commodities exchange more than just a local player.
I really like the points you've raised. I like what I'm hearing. I'm hearing beneficiation, I'm hearing commodity securitization, I'm hearing that Africa is beginning to take advantage of the shifts, and we will not even wait for what's happening globally, whether it's geopolitical risk or so, we position ourselves.
Yes.
And you sound more like an apostle of the commodities market, which is a good one. But let me yield to Mr. Tasishi to engage further.
Thank you also. Thank you very much for appearing on our program, Mr. Akeredolu-Ale. It's been a pleasure. The fact is, you actually jumped into the questions I wanted to ask you because but it's brilliant. And the reason why I'm saying it's brilliant is one of my major concerns is how do we integrate Africa's commodity markets? I'll give you a challenge here to consider. I can't trade directly from Nigeria on, say, the Joburg exchange. I can't even do that in Egypt. I perhaps can't even do, not even perhaps, really, I can't even do it on the Ghana exchange, GSC. So, what do you think should be the plans, if they're not already in place? What should be the plans for integrating the financialization of commodities and the beneficiation of commodities globally, an integrated African commodities market?
About 7 years ago, I met with the MD of one bank, and when we had a meeting with him, he said it's good that we're starting, that there was a vacuum that was there. That whether we were starting it then or not, some people will have occupied that space sooner or later. Now, you were saying integration of between us and Joburg, Ghana and Co. That is what we are seeing from our own side. If you go, like I mentioned earlier, into what technology is doing now, I go into the Gen Z space, and you see what they're doing with cryptocurrency, currency mining, stable coins, and all that. You will discover that they have broken the barriers of geographical limits to the extent that they're doing transactions here in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, in Joburg. They are doing events. They are trading online. They are doing what we call the entertainment industry. They've broken across. They sell their tickets across Africa when they're having an event, and people come from everywhere. You saw what happened in Lagos last year when we spoke about, what was it called? Dirty December. They came from all over the world. Yeah. So whether you are trying to integrate commodities across Africa or not, it's only a matter of time before the Gen Zs catch up with you. The only thing is, are we creating structures that can become, sorry for me to use the word, sexy?
Yeah.
That will attract them into the ecosystem. Because if we don't harvest them, some other people will harvest them and harvest the opportunity. And we hope that since we have a structured position, we will be able to harvest them positively. You saw about 6, 8, 9 months ago when one institution came and harvested almost about $86 million from them and walked away. Now, what we need to do is to put the structure in place and technology to allow the freedom for people to be able to do proper trades. You will discover that the cross-border trading and the issues of regulation across will be broken by technology. It's already broken in the cryptocurrency space. And sooner or later, we in the commodity space will have to get to a point whereby you should be able to allow Africans from anywhere, from Kenya, Joburg, to be able to trade from anywhere and settle the trades. The only thing about the issue of trading and settling in a structured environment now has to do with the issue that has to go with anti-money laundering. How do you manage the issues that come on the fallout of anti-money laundering? How do you track the money? How do you do provenance to see how you track all these things? These things will evolve and come naturally. But the only thing we must not do is that if we sit down and think that is until we do it, the environment, the ecosystem will evolve to that point already. And I've seen some institutions, for the Gen Zs, for example, that have gone ahead to go and do registration at the Securities and Exchange Commission as asset managers and fund managers, because they've been able to mobilize resources, mobilize capital, mobilize savings to opportunities, and they've been able to mobilize the Gen Zs. A lot of them with a high demography. If you go and look at the figures that came out when MTN did its IPO, they constituted a large percentage of that. And all the subscriptions went online. They came online. The other part of it is that if you look at the demography too, almost about 60% of the people that subscribe were women. Now, were women. Now, that means you have a demography of Gen Zs, one. You have a demography also of the female gender too. So these opportunities are there. The only thing we need to do is, how do we create simpler structure that allows access for this particular market niche to be able to participate? And I'm sure that if you see what the commission has been doing, that the Securities and Exchange Commission has been doing, they've been creating opportunity structures, even around cryptocurrency. And how do you create instruments that are linked to digital assets, so that the digital assets can be easily traded? They are now looking at how do you do tokenization, so that retail trading can go on, whereby people can trade easily without having to go through the various too many requirements. Because if you remove some of these requirements and maintain sanity about money laundering also, you discover that we are going to have Africa being trade, and there won't be any barrier when it comes to how do you create barrier between Joburg and Nigeria, Joburg and Ghana. Ghanaian youths are doing things with Nigerians. South African youths are doing things with Nigerians. Nigerians are doing things with Kenyans. They are doing things with Jamaicans. They are globally everywhere. So if we look at AI, artificial intelligence, technology, and the new things that are coming up, I think it will be easier. The only thing is for us to change our own mindsets and try to see how do we harness these people, harvest them, regulate them, guide them, so that they will not be misled, and for us to be able to see the critical component of what it means when you have a youthful population, and we take it to our advantage. That's what I see.
Okay, just a quick one, just a brief one on top of what you have just described. Do you see a role for the Pan-African Payment System, the PAPS?
Yeah.
Because in equities, there's a shift towards looking at PAPS for payments and settlements for equities across Africa. Do you see a similar kind of shift towards such payments resolution?
I will tell you that earlier when I said about 7 years ago, I went to a bank. Well, because we saw this ahead. We actually went to EcoBank.
Okay.
Because as at that time, EcoBank then, before PAPS came, had a 52 country currency switch.
Yes, exactly.
And they called the other currencies in Africa, they called them exotic currencies, whereby you can switch from one currency to the other. They said they had their backbone and all that in Ghana, that running into Nigeria. Then PAPS came later. Then all the issues that have to do with intergovernmental arrangement, the central banks and all that, PAPS is taking care of them to smoothen all those things out. What I'll tell you easily is that if PAPS does not still catch up, or the exotic currencies does not still catch up, the demography of the African youths are still having one way or the other to make their payments. And that's why you discover that the electronic wallets are growing astronomically everywhere. In Africa and in Nigeria, they're growing astronomically. The cryptocurrencies and all that, they're growing astronomically. Like I said earlier, it's just for us to see how we can bring the structures like PAPS and Co. into it and make it simpler for them to participate. If you don't make it simpler for them to participate, they're already running their business anyway. What we're just trying to do is to participate. And I'm very happy that if you look at the banking sector, the moment they realize that, look, in-house banking, what's it called, ATM machines and all that, that online was taken over, and these small institutions that were doing the payment platform wallets were making more revenue than them. They adapted, they adopted, they co-opted, and started rearranging their structures immediately. And the revenue that they've been able to generate by adapting to this online payment system have been very, very humongous for whatever they're doing. So for the capital market also, gradually, in a structured way, because you have to do things in a regulated manner to protect everybody. we are going to have to get to that position whereby we bring in PAPS, like PAPS is doing, and then maybe all the exotic currencies at anywhere, you can trade with anyone. Exactly. And then if you see Nigerians now, and other African youths, the level of migration for tourism is now very high. People are going to Tanzania for holidays now without having to travel outside Africa. They're going to Ghana, they're going to Kenya. The African youths now, they're making their payments too. And some of them are not doing it through PAPS now. So how are they doing it as we speak now? And lastly, I think there was something that happened in Nigeria about 4 years ago that we need to revisit immediately.
Okay. And
we need a proposal on that. Is the fact that we should go and reactivate the e-Naira. You know, it came in then through the central bank, and there was some little, it has to come back as a major wallet. If we have this e-Naira as a major wallet, that's one of the easiest things that we can use to do integration of payments to PAPS, to Africa, whereby when there's an e-wallet and it's simpler for them to use, then you will discover that within the African, Pan-African space, it will be easier to harvest these people, mobilize them for us to work together.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Before I ask my next question, I just want to get from you for 1 minute, based on this conversation on Africa. The AfCFTA, you have African Commodities Exchanges like that in Zimbabwe, you have Ghana and all that. So what's the interaction like in terms of developing Africa's commodities market ecosystem?
First of all, we are part of that arrangement. LCF is on that, the steering committee establishing that ecosystem. And it started from after, and what they did was, they said we should start with an association of commodities exchanges in Africa. And the first thing they did was, there was a conference in Ghana, whereby all the CEOs of commodities exchanges converged in Ghana, and we were all there. We deliberated for like 3 days, and we came up with, okay, let us start with an association. To register the association, do we keep it in Mauritius? Do we keep it in Ghana? And all that we put out together. And before we could finish by the third day, the resolution had been moved also that it would be better for us to even set up a Pan-African commodities exchange, you know, which would be like a hub that everybody can lock into. And if you want to do dual trading and all that, we can trade through that platform. Of course, you know that you are talking about 52 countries in Africa, and one of the challenges immediately was that we noticed that a lot of the commodities exchanges were from West Africa and East Africa. Yeah, and then we also noticed that from South Africa, they were highly regulated for them to make any commitment to participate. So effective to bring all the various components together into one took a little while. But by the time we established the Africa Commodities Exchange, we are currently trying to run a pilot. And that pilot is supposed to be for cocoa. And to be driven through Côte d'Ivoire for cocoa. When we do cocoa and it runs smoothly, then we'll be able to go to other asset classes. The registration has been done, and we also noticed that during the conference that Nigeria is a very, very highly sophisticated country. The level of infrastructure that's in Africa is miles away from other African countries. I can say that easily. For example, in Nigeria, we have a depository established with ISO certification to the highest level. There are some countries in Africa that don't have a depository yet. We have a counter claim party CCP arrangement in Nigeria. Some countries are not even thinking about it yet. We have commodities exchanges. Some countries, what they still have is the regulator like SEC in Africa. They don't even have them exchanges yet. And some just have them maybe boards in their own countries. Some don't have even the apex regulator like SEC. So to bring everybody together was of a little challenge. But at the end of the day, you will discover that it is Africa. And the components of what these people have at the various parts will bring together a common, bigger picture that will make Africa a very robust environment. And what we've done is, for the ones that cannot move as fast, they are keeping them up. The ones that are moving fast, they're running faster. And I believe, I think we did our first conference in Zimbabwe for the African commodities.
biggest opportunities for us to grow as a country is through agriculture. It's been there over time, the mainstay. Just yesterday, the National Bureau of Statistics released the gross domestic product report. Economy has grown at 4.2%, and agriculture agri-sector grew at 2.8%. And in terms of GDP contribution, double digit, over 20% still. And the LCFE, you play in the agri space.
Yes.
Share with us the linkages and how you're helping to bring price discovery and unlock the opportunities that we can derive from this sector. Today is a big day too. You're going to launch your 23.4 billion Naira Eco Rice Classic Sports contracts. Just give us some insights into this.
I'll give you some insights into it. The first thing is, the Eco Rice contract that we're launching today took 4 years. 4 years. In mobilizing the various stakeholders to understand the transaction dynamics for structured instruments, from the banks, that's the settlement banks, to NIBs, interbank investment that we've been speaking about, to the brokers that are doing it, to the collateral managers that are going to issue the warehouse receipts, to the people that own the warehouse, to the subnational that's showing interest, like in Lagos State, that they want to participate, to be able to convince also the regulator that Nigeria is ready for them to see, because they started it from the 10-year master plan, and they needed to see the risk management structure to make sure that the teeth and everything was okay. They needed to look at the certification companies to make sure the quality is right, and the standardization and all that. All these things took, because each component had to be explained to before we even got to the insurance. The insurance people too, they had their own policies that focused on certain things that were not too much focused on their commodities. So to drag everybody in. So this instrument is not just a reflection of just one product. It's a template that subsequently will be replicated for so many other asset classes. And that's why we're very, very excited today that today we're going to start with the sports market, whereby when, before the trade starts today, the CSCS statement, when you do equities, you have a CSCS statement. When you do fixed income, you can have a statement also of fixed income. The CSCS statement that's going to be traded will be shown today. That means the transaction is connected to the depository. These are big issues that makes it easier for the banking sector to be more comfortable to see that this is a fungible instrument, this is a bankable instrument, and it's something that they're not going to have any problem with. Should they finance it? It means that if you take it to a bank now, they know that it's something that is an asset that they can finance as a collateral. There. Now, for LCF, we had gone through all that, and then we've started with the rice value chain because it's major in Nigeria. And in the agri space also, we've been able to start engaging that. And I would like to just make it very simple. Okay. As a family man, if you drive and put together your budget, there's no way that you can put together a budget for your family without creating a budget for food.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Sure. Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Sure. Yes, certainly.
Now, if you know that as a family man, it's just common sense that if you're putting together a budget, you must create a budget for food. It means effectively, whatever you're going to put for food, is going to be substantial.
Oh, definitely.
Now, if you now know that, it means that if you have a country and in your budget, you don't make provisions for how you're going to feed, it means that you need to start looking at how do you create a budget to know how you're going to feed for the year. It's very, very simple. An algorithm will do it for you. Very simple. That you have 230 million people and they're going to eat 3 times a day. And then this is the volumetric ton that you eat per meal. You can actually extrapolate what 230 million people will eat in a year. So effectively, when you know what you're going to consume in a year in the agricultural space, it is possible for you to create a budget. And it's possible for you to create a structure whereby it will fund that food program for the next 24 months in a structured way. Now, when I say structured way, you discover that by way of reforms in Nigeria, we've done reform for telecoms, it's done very well. We've done reform for the banking sector, it's doing very well. We've done for insurance, it's doing very well. Petroleum liquids, is doing very well. Every part is doing, but we have not done any reforms for how we're going to eat. The agric space. There has to be a time whereby there will be projected seasons and what the harvest will going to be for that season. And for the next season and for the next season, to know what you're going to be able to harvest, to know how you're going to be self-sufficient. The only way you can do that by way of reforms is to bring to the table the private sector that's supposed to handle that part, the commodities ecosystem, the commodities exchanges. I think it's high time that the federal government should be looking at, okay, for 2026, the federal government has the intention of looking at for the food program, for food, maybe like 10 trillion for food. Nobody is saying that the federal government should put 10 trillion down for food. Put down a reform or structure that will be able to finance such. In Nigeria now, we have sukuks. We are using it to finance infrastructure.
Exactly.
Yeah, we are using from bonds to finance infrastructure.
Yes.
And we are using some to finance recurrent expenditure. There has to be a real radical move by Nigeria to say that when we're discussing our budgets, we should use the word food for 2026. How much are we going to spend on food? And what that does is the federal government doesn't have to put money, put a guarantee down that whoever produces X amount, if you produce it and get it to a warehouse that's under a recognized commodities exchange, you get paid immediately. Easily, then we can build up our food reserve.
Just before you go off that topic, because you mentioned warehouse, the warehouse receipt system.
Yes.
How effectively is it working currently? And what is the intention?
Yeah. You see, the first thing I would say for that is that when you have a government that has given you enabling environments, they've given you law to back you up, it's been signed into law, that supports the warehouse receipt system. That is all the government can do for you. They've created the enabling environment for you. They're giving you the law to back you. It's left for you to create the instruments and bring it up and take advantage of the structure that's been put in place. Government is not going to come and it's not going to feed you. So now, since there's a law, if you go into the ISA, it has a lot of bite into it, and I want to commend the Securities and Exchange Commission for putting that together, particularly the current administration now that made sure that it was signed into law. It means that if you have a warehouse receipts, it becomes tradable.
Okay.
It becomes an instrument that you can take to a bank to be able to get money back. Now, just try and imagine that someone has a silo that can take maize of maybe like 25,000 metric tons on his own and issues a warehouse receipt on it. And he knows that if he has it and it's established, if he gets to maybe like federal government, they can offtake the whole, and he gets his money, and there are people monitoring it. Then you discover that easily, the federal government can say that we have total tonnage of silos all over Nigeria that are under commodities exchanges. For this year, 2026, we're going to be releasing X amount of money in tranches of every quarter, maybe like 5 trillion every quarter, for them to offtake whatever is in any warehouses with warehouse receipts in place. Easily, the banks and investors can see that, okay, if the federal government is releasing this X amount of money, and it's confirmed because it's a structured private sector arrangement, I can go and plan and produce on my own, take it to the warehouse because I know I'm going to get my money back. That means that the federal government, without going into production, knows that they can aggregate on an annual basis what we will need to eat throughout the year.
You used the word aggregate. Just before you continue there, how has the aggregators, how has it been positioned within this system to be as effective as possible to see these aspirations satisfied?
You know that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with very few steps. So what we did was we had an engagement with Zimbabwe Commodities Exchange. They're running this very well in Zimbabwe. And it's always been there for a while. Now, if you are a farmer and you have one bag, let's have one bag of maize, you know, it does not mean that if you have one bag of maize that should be worth about 30,000 or thereabout to 50, you should be poor. You should be able to take it to a warehouse whereby they will test it, they will weigh it, and give you about 60% of the value, and they keep the remaining for you. If you want to go and sell the remaining value on the next, you can go and sell it. If one person brings one bag, it means that you've taken poverty out of that space. Socio-economic impact. If you now see another person bringing 3 bags, before you know it, little drops from
Wide ocean.
you discover that 10 bags, 15 bags, 100 bags, you'll have a full warehouse. You issue warehouse receipts for it. Everything in the warehouse, which is like 1,000 bags, will be evacuated subsequently from that particular warehouse to a federal government warehouse. And we have our, what's it called, reserve, food reserve, being built up gradually. Because people now will have reassurance that if they produce, they can easily sell and get value back. And that's where the legal part comes in, whereby the instrument that's issued has legal backing. You can take it to the police, you can take it to court, you can enforce it and all that, because it shows that you are entitled, you are the owner of a particular amount of commodity. Now, these are things that are like little heavy liftings, but we've done them over time. Now, by the time we do the listing for sports today, you will discover that we will start from one rice miller, we'll do it for so many other millers. Later one day, you look at the exchange and you see maybe like 10 different or 15 different types of rice to pick from. And at the same time, the prices will be competing because everybody will be able to see each other's price. So it's some heavy lifting, but Nigeria is waking up. We have the law backing us. We have the regulator. And we in the private sector, we now have to start sitting up to see how we court the bankers to be able to support, to participate, and at the same time bring the Gen Zs, the population, for them to participate in the commodities space. The warehouse is a document. If you look at it, if you default on anything, some of them is like 25-year jail. You can go to the document. That document, the IC has been signed. People, you cannot afford to mess around with it at all.
Yeah, you can't.
Let's go on.
Yes. So it's interesting what I'm really hearing around technology, around unlocking opportunities to agri sector, and indeed deepening the economy. Recently at the Dangote Petrochemical Refinery Complex, you were there, and of course, massive investments by Africa's richest man, business leader. You talked about opportunities through petroleum liquids or crude. And that is very interesting to me because that diversifies our investment base, gives us options for investments. You're not just agri, you're not just selling minerals, you also are looking at oil and gas. So if you can expatiate further, because we shared with our big investor about the opportunities there. So we hope to see that with the PIA now, Petroleum Industry Act effect and others, that asset class will begin to take effect. But just give us some insight into it. Very interesting for me.
Thank you. I'm very happy that you said you were there. So we were all there. Exactly. And you heard what Malaji said that day. He said that he's going to scale up his urea plant. And he's going to move it towards 5,000 metric tons per day. He said it that day. And even the 5,000, he said that the global space from West Africa to Africa to Nigeria, that 5,000 is not going to be enough. But there was something he said that day too. He said that when that plant starts running fully, that they'll be making $20 million per day. He said profit. That's what he said in front of everybody there. He said it will be making $20 million per day. You see, what's one of the things that we should be looking at in Nigeria as a country and individuals is that we should start looking at how do we activate exports to earn forex, apart from just waiting to get from federal government. Effective, what that means is that for urea, that is a commodity that's tradable, an investment outlet. Even if Nigerians want to participate by investing, if there's a structured note also in it to participate. What I see that is a lot of people that will be participating currently will be internationals that understand that they can do this with the Dangote refinery space. And gradually, hopefully, I hope that the Dangote group will look at creating a structure that will be tradable on like a commodity exchange like LCF, so that Nigerians can participate in a small. We don't have to. You see, that's the good thing about a commodity exchange. You don't have to travel all the way to Elec or Dangote refinery because you want to trade urea or refined products. You should be able to just easily, without going to the bureaucracy, be able to do that through a commodities exchange. And I know that very soon to get to that point there. That is just one aspect of it. We have so many youngsters now that are doing beneficiation, you know, for cashew. They do it semi-processed. They do it for cocoa butter. I know some in the companies that are doing cocoa butter in those states and all those places. Top range now, and they are fetching them dollars. We know what the oil palm industry is doing in Nigeria. You can see the prices on the equities market. It's because it is highly sought after. Now, when I was speaking earlier about planning and budgeting, you know, on an annual basis, we diarize, we issue fixed income instruments to stabilize the economy, to raise capital. Sooner or later, if we really want to activate, we should have instruments that will come from federal government for plantation regeneration for cocoa, plantation regeneration for oil palm, plantation regeneration for cashew, whereby the same structured approach with the private sector will allow those plantations to be redeployed back again, because we have growing, aging plantations and all those things, to be able to bring new ones, and we have the arable land there. So the capital markets is still going to play a very, very critical role in mobilizing capital and creating the succession arrangement and the transparency that's required from the private sector to be able to support all the efforts that the federal government is making. Now, to come back to Dangote refinery, you know, we're hoping also that sooner or later to that, even the petroleum liquids, that they're doing there, that people can trade them in a way whereby you don't have to go all the way there. You don't have to know anybody. All you need to do is you see Dangote petroleum liquids and you want to trade and you have small money. You should be able to trade it on a daily basis. And we are going to get there anyway one day, with so many other ones that are there. Some modular refineries coming up, and there are some other people doing good stuff. But it's an opportunity for us to see that the commodities space in Nigeria controls about 69 to 70% of our economy. So effectively, that is what we should be focusing on. And to run it up, there's no way, I'll emphasize again, that you put up a budget for your household and you not make clear provisions for what you're going to eat, food. You can't just assume that, okay, food will come. Yeah, those are my positions. Very interesting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akeredolu-Ale. Now, batting off what you have just said, you talked about someday. Do you have an idea of how soon it can happen? And why I'm asking is this: you've made a repeated demonstration of the fact that the younger generation of the Nigerian population are interested in tradable assets that will fetch decent returns. And it can be on multiple and different platforms. But the important thing is that they can trade.
Yes.
That's why I said, when you say someday, that young population you're talking about, that someday, they'll move out of Gen Z to baby boomers. So how soon do you think this could happen? Because, like you rightly pointed out, you have to plan food. So we need to plan for these other instruments to be created.
Yeah, thank you very much. The first thing I must look at is we have Nigeria has its own code of governance, and the code of governance for Nigeria, you know, is more of a carrot and stick arrangement. And the carrot and stick arrangement only requires that you can do moral suasion. So effectively, when I say someday, nobody can force anybody to adopt a particular process for anything to list or to do anything. But hopefully, with moral suasion, some people will realize that this is the best way to go. And also, we also have the issue of we also mentioned the issue of the youth. You see, there's a way that the youth, when you're with the youth, when you're with the youth, you see the youth, whether you do what they want or not, it's a moving train.
Okay.
They're going to get to where they're going.
Okay.
Yeah. So whether someday or not, this someday is here already. And the only thing is, how do you create the safety nets to harvest them? And that's why, if you look at the statements that the Director General of SEC has been making, he has been going out of his way to say this particular ecosystem, we must make sure that we create a structure to harvest them. Then the other part is we are having, like you mentioned, an aging population of investors. Now we are looking at an average of 65 to 70. So this is a movement that very soon we will have to harvest, and that's why that's why we're having this conversation today. Some of them are listening to you, and some of them are savvy investors also, and some of them are aggressive. The ones that are aggressive that has fallen to some of these Ponzi schemes and all that, that the commission is trying to protect them. So very soon, with technology and with us creating instruments that they feel comfortable investing in, and simplifying the process to be able to trade, to simplify to the simplest form, makes it easier. Some of them want to pick their phones, register, and trade
exactly.
immediately, and start trading immediately. And I'm sure that gradually the commission is working towards that. If you notice recently, the commission has just approved for us to move from T+3 transaction, transaction plus 3 days to T+2. And by next year, I think March, about next year, they're going to move to T+1. So effectively, when you have a turnaround time whereby you can get your investment back and still get your money immediately, it makes it easier for them to come in. And for them also to be sexy, I think the other part of it is we have to create the environment that is subtle and that is acceptable to them. If you go to some banks now, even the banking reception, they've started doing it and adapting it to be able to make sure that when they come, they're comfortable. A lot of them are adapting online, whereby they can quickly look at the system, do whatever they want to do. And that's why some banks that were at the back on the list before, because of their technology, they've been able to move now to the front, and they're moving faster than so many other banks have been slow. So yes, we're going to get there quickly. Why I said quickly is that there are some institutions and there are some transactions that we still have to deal with because they are mega institutions. And we're hoping that like the Dangote Group, that they will allow Nigerians to be able to trade in the urea through Commodities Exchange and maybe petroleum liquids also. Nigerians can participate. The federal government has announced already that in the past that 75% of commodities trades should pass through a registered commodities exchange. That's the only thing the federal government can do, and they've signed them and I say they are to be able to support that. Apart from that, we are the ones that are supposed to now activate the ecosystem and make sure that we take advantage of the policies and the things that the federal government is putting in place for us to support the ecosystem. Today, the 23.4 billion. I really want to thank the executive governor of Lagos State. He's a very, very brilliant governor. He understands investment banking. He understands treasury. He was a former treasurer.
He was a former exactly. That's what I wanted to say.
So he understands treasury. He understands transaction dynamics. He understands commerce. He understands that you must be able to create a financial hub, a particular location whereby everybody becomes centralized to be able to trade from, and he's building that structure into what is being done in Lagos. He launched our gold here. He launched rice here. Is because he understands what these things need to do. And the 23.4 billion spots that we're doing today, that we're going to be launching today, is backed fully by the assets. Fully by the asset. The asset is there over 300,000 bags to support it. And he's been able to do that because he wants to support the ecosystem. Let people come in to be able to trade, take delivery, and know that there are certain things that are possible in Nigeria, in our country, we as Nigerians, as a people. Let people see it. I want to thank him very much for it, because without the subnationals in some cases supporting some of this and understanding the transaction dynamics, it will be very difficult for them to participate. So Lagos State as a brand is done very well. Mr. Governor, I want to thank him. his team, Dr. Fashola, and the Commissioner for Agriculture. These are brilliant people that by the time we finish what we're trying to do in the commodity space, you will discover that every other state in Nigeria will take that same template for to be able to be self-sufficient and support the food program that the federal government is looking at.
Before I allow you to escape, you mentioned something, gold. Everybody loves gold. So I'm asking, in terms of the metals, how well are we doing, with our commodity exchanges? Somebody was telling me about lithium. I mean, it's being exported outside the framework of an exchange. It's the standard regulations you want were not there. But also, gold, you go to a particular country in the Far East, there's a gold named after a state in Nigeria, which I won't mention because I saw the way you looked. I won't mention that gold. That particular state has massive amounts of exports of that gold. It's still not within this framework. So I'm saying, do we have challenges in metals relative to what we see in the commodities, the cash crops?
I will say this from my experience. As a small boy, I'd heard that there was gold in Ilesha.
Ilesha, yes.
So anytime I'm passing through Ilesha, I'll be looking on the floor whether I'll see
gold.
Gold. But the gold that we listed on the LCFE was from Ilesha.
Okay.
And we took it from the rudimentary position.
Okay.
The gold doors, before we now send it for refining at a refinery. Yeah. Now,
so the refinery, local or foreign?
Foreign. The reason why we had to use foreign is because of a specification for now that was approved by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
The gold must be 99.999% pure. And the level of smoothness for the coin must be to London Bullion Market standard. And for us to be able to get that, we have to take it to an international refinery. And there's nobody that has seen that asset, the gold, that will not tell you that it is top range. But when we were taking it there, we were told, like I was there, that we should look from the window out. I saw 2 big bags of gold that were just coming in from Nigeria for refining. So effectively, on daily basis, or maybe on weekly basis, gold is still leaving Nigeria for refining in certain locations. And we have this gold everywhere. The good part is that our gold, even in the raw states, is almost about 97 or to 98% purity. In other countries, a part of the world, you see gold maybe like 60%, then 40% copper. And there's some maybe 60% and like 70% gold and 30% silver. Nigeria's gold is almost like 97 to 98%, almost close to the real gold. And when we now did the refining, we brought it back. We took it to some top agencies in Nigeria, and we told them that this is from Nigeria. And the ministers then could not believe that these things are from our country. Now, I'll go to lithium. Lithium is being moved in rocks from Nigeria out to other countries, then it gets to UAE there, and we have been told that we can come and list Nigeria's lithium in UAE. Now, what they're even saying is that do little beneficiation. Process the rocks in Nigeria first, extract some lithium, so that you don't have to carry the boulders all the way, and you get better value for it. That is existing. Yes, it is real, and people are doing it in boulders and all over. We had a conversation about 2 years ago when we had a meeting with the Senate Committee, Capital Markets. One of the heads of customs came, and he told us that customs, they have location warehouses, whereby if you have all these things there, if you move them in there and do the certification, they will be export ready for them to take out. That these opportunities are there. We don't know that. So for lithium, it's available, it's in large quantity. Tin is in large quantity in Nigeria. Gold is everywhere in Nigeria, and I'm happy that the government did the presidential artisanal miners arrangement. PAGME. That on its own is mobilizing gold, aggregating gold. But the only thing is the ones that come out of that place, the moment it comes out, the federal government is keeping it as a strategic reserve. Then, and then from our own side, we wrote to the central bank about 5 years ago that we wanted them to be vaulting gold for us. We first of all got a reply then that the central bank vaults are only for the central bank, but we gave them that Barclays in London and other banks in other parts of the world, they bank for what's it called, individuals. Fortunately for us, about maybe 2 years ago or about 18 months ago, the central bank wrote that, okay, let us see the structure or how we can do vaulting for gold. Now the advantage of that is if the central bank now decides that they want to vault gold for us, it makes it easier for the PFAs now to start buying gold because they will now be more comfortable if the gold is hedging. Is resident with the CBN. Because there's a particular level that you get to, even if you're a bank, you're vaulting gold, that the value of the gold will be bigger than your balance sheet. And at that point, it becomes a risk.
Exactly.
So we're doing that, and then for the gold, it's doing very well. It started from 42,000 then per gram. It's now doing about 142,000 now. It's been mirroring the international price. But it's still, if there's space for arbitrage, because if you look at convert the international price, it comes to about 150 something thousand per gram. But ours is about 142. There's still space for arbitrage, but so many people don't know. And we're also trying to see how we do tokenization, whereby the retail, smaller people can invest in that space. So I've mentioned gold, I've mentioned, in fact, lithium is from Kwara to Nasarawa to everywhere and chain. Yeah, and there was a very good reason that the federal government then set up a larger steel mill because we have a lot of deposits for that. Those are things that are maybe later you discover that gradually we'll start moving towards some other metals and to be trading them. But for now, we just want to pick one or two, establish it very well. The same template will now be replicated for the other assets.
Mr. Akeredolu, this is a very interesting conversation, and there are some few questions from online. So we'd just like to take them quickly as we get to the first one is from observation from it says, can Mr. Akeredolu-Ale explain how a retail investor can participate in the commodities market from the 50,000 to 1 million investor? Where do they go
from the other asset classes? Is that you have an underlying, which is the physical asset, which is the commodity. But by way of process, it's almost the same. If you want to buy, for example, you want to go into the equities market, you go to a broker.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the broker will assist you. We have commodity brokers, trained commodity brokers. Then we have dealing member firms that are commodity brokers also. Go through them. If you have an existing document, like it's straightforward, the same KYC can be used for you. The trade, when you do the trades, this statement that you're going to use, when you do the trades, this statement that you're going to have, which is like the CSS statement, it's the same CSS statement also. The only thing is CSS statement. It's the same CSS statement also. The only thing is you have a CSS statement that now says gold or says sports rights. For you, the same structure, the same requirement, the KYC, means of identification and all that. And for the ones that have online structure whereby they can allow you to, they can onboard you online. There's some brokerage firms too, like that. They onboard you and you can do your trades easily, which is going to be done today. Some people are going to trade physically today on the floor. We just allow very few of them to do the trade, but a lot will trade remotely. And this is because of the business continuity plan that was established in 2020 by SEC during COVID period. When that thing happened, a lot of brokers now realized that they could trade them remotely. So a lot of people are still doing remote trading. They bring in their systems here. It will be configured for them so that they can trade remotely.
Okay. There's another question. You just talked about the rice spot contracts launch today, and the person is asking, obviously has heard you talk about it, how this rice contract is different from the normal bag of rice that we can buy in the market. What is the advantage therein in LCFE, and how can this be scaled nationwide? You know, Lagos is a big beneficiary, but how can other states
Yes, what I would say is that it's the same. It's the same. The only difference is that you don't have to take delivery immediately. for the sports. You don't have to take. I can buy 50 bags today at the price today, and then you lock in on the price today. You bought it already, and then maybe come December, you go and exercise your and take a delivery of the rice, and before December, you decide that, you know what, I bought this rice because I wanted to sell it in December. I need, these children are coming back to school. I need
Liquidity.
liquidity. You put it back in the system, you trade it, T+2, you get your money back, and you're back. It's the same arrangement. The only thing is, you are buying a certified better quality of rice. Better quality of rice. That's what you'll be buying. And I will say this easily: rice is one of the major consumed commodities that we have in Nigeria, and there's no point buying rice that is loaded with preservatives, which is very common in Nigeria.
Yes.
You're buying farm fresh, healthy, stable rice with good quality there. You can trade. You can buy as low as 1 bag. You can buy less than 1 bag. When you aggregate it to 1 bag, you can take delivery like the gold also in that particular space there. So people can do the trades, and then for people that want to buy large volumes also, they want to buy maybe like 10,000 bags, which is 10,000 contracts also. You can do that also. And the entry price today is actually very, very competitive. Yeah, I will not say it when the
that would have been Expo if you had said
the issue will be coming in. The issues will be coming in. I've seen the prices.
Okay.
The other thing that we do at the exchange is that when we feel that your entry price is not what we feel is the market friendly, we will tell you that based on what we are having by way of research R&D from our research unit, this is the recommended price, and the listing and quotations committee will have enforced that this is the price that should be done. But if the listing and quotation says this should be the price, and the market forces now takes the price upwards, there's nothing we can do about that. Or the market forces take the price down, there's nothing we can do about that. That's when we start talking about the two-way quote.
Okay.
Whereby the market forces starts moving up or down. But if you buy now, you can keep it and you can sell it tomorrow, and then it's liquid.
Okay. Just while you take a sip, a quick question. Today is spot. Is tomorrow futures or forwards?
Forwards.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the difference between the two is that for sports you take physical delivery immediately.
Okay.
For futures is at a later date. So the risk and profile for the two asset classes are different.
Okay.
Yeah, one is more of that the investors immediately that are buying the futures have to be protected.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have gotten approval for the spots, and very soon we'll get approval for the futures contract. That is the one that I think that is the 30 billion program.
Okay.
And and you see the issue is the major thing is that we actually started the futures one before the sports one. But since the sports one, SEC has seen that the asset is the risk profile, that one was approved. But the other one, they are still asking us for so many.
Understandable.
Yeah, so that when there is full compliance, then they will allow the issuer to come up with that, because we know that the futures one, that's where a lot of the investment bankers will want to lock him up for a later date, and that's the ones that the asset managers and the fund managers might want to participate in the PFAs. So it has to be watertight. So hopefully, I think maybe in another 4 weeks after this one, the regulator will give its approval on that. Then we'll continue, and like that, we'll be layering assets upon assets, and we'll be creating an opportunity whereby people can invest in different asset classes throughout the year. And you can decide on where and how you want to put your money. Because if it were me, I'll put my money into rice for December, and as at maybe like 22nd of December, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm not advising anybody.
Yes, obviously, yes.
I'll make sure that I exit on my rice that day, because I know that the festive period then, then probably I'll wait till January, first or second week January. I'll buy afresh again. I'm just personally for me and my family. Then I'll wait for the Yule tide again, maybe during the layer period or Easter period, then offload like that, so that I can plan towards that. And the warehouse is there large. The warehouse at Imota has about 12 bins of about 25,000 metric tons each up, and the warehouse that can take about 250,000 metric tons. So everything is there, and that's why I say that for the subnational and for Lagos State, particularly Mr. Governor, I give them kudos for what they've done, and participating in the space. Now Lagos is trying to do a food program whereby they're now partnering with Niger State, partnering with them, so many others, whereby the comparative advantage will be Lagos. You produce there, and they process in Lagos. I think they understand where their strength is. They have capacity, they have a currency, and the capital to raise money and the brand. So they are leveraging that to be able to build a bigger economy.
So, Mr. Akeredolu-Ale, we're going to wrap up now, but I'm going to ask you just 3 very short, specific questions, and you will wrap that up.
Yes.
First, we'll look at the Eco rice premium and Eco gold premium. How is the market in terms of liquidity? How is it performing?
Eco
rice, and then of course the Eco gold.
Okay.
What's the performance like in terms of market liquidity? And then next is, are you mirroring the gold price movement, global gold price movement, LCFE? And lastly, for the Proshare axis, how can we look at partnership in the API in terms of data? How can that be achieved?
Okay. I'll take the gold first. Then I'll take the rice. Then I'll take the API, the partnership. You see, there's so many things that the current administration has done that we will not be able to know the value. For some people that understand the quagmire and the confusion that was there before will understand the value. When we started trying to list the gold then on the market, and we had a parallel market and a CBN rate, it was very difficult to price the gold on LCFE. Because the issue was now, people will be pretentiously be doing as if they are looking at the CBN rate, but in their mind, they will not sell to you. They will not sell to you at the CBN rate because they are looking at what is the FX rate in the parallel market. But when there was a convergence of the rates, and it trimmed down the margin. Activity picked up in gold. Because people now realize that they could get real value for what they want in that gold when they do it. Now, what that has done also is that it still created little margin fluctuation between the local market price here and international markets. That little band there is not left for the exchange to look at. It is the market force of how and what people feel that they want to price into the gold and how much they believe they can expose themselves by way of buying the gold into. Hopefully one day, when some internationals come, I'm sure that the margins will thin out, because when they realize that actually it's the same gold that I'm buying here, that I'm buying outside, the margins will become thinner. For that particular part, which is like the two-way quote, that is not a force that the exchange can do anything about. Now, for the rice, there's a premium rice, like you mentioned, and there's a classic rice. The premium rice is purely from homegrown rice, which is the Faro 44 and Faro 52 grain rice. It's purely local, and it has its own flavor, very healthy, its own taste. Now for the classic is from rice bran that was imported. So effectively, the rice bran is just polished at the mill. So it's actually the equivalent of imported rice. It's like an imported rice, like an Uncle Ben's or any other imported rice. That is the quality you're going to get there. The grains are even, the colors are even, and it's long grain and it has its own international taste. So the two have different price and range. In the market, I think that for some competitors, from what I've seen, some competitors before the quotations committee agreed on the listing price, they saw the range some from like 72 to 83 in retail and different prices. Don't forget that we have local rice also.
Yes.
That is trading them locally in the public at 51 to 55,000. When people tell you that I bought a rice for 51,000, 55, it is possible. You know, you can sit down with them and see them removing stones every time from there. Now on the prices are a little bit different, but by way of liquidity, you have various merchants that will be coming in today that will now prefer to, instead of tying their money down with a mill, they can buy and take up their sports transaction immediately if they want to, and if they decide also, they can sell to the market. And also for the early birds, if you know that you're going to see some merchants coming to buy later, if I have money, I'll buy 1 bag and keep. I'll buy 5 bags and keep. And when I see the merchants coming, I'll sell it back to the market there. Now, on the issue of API with Proshare, you see, we've been discussing AI, we've been discussing technology. Data is everything.
Exactly.
Data is everything. You cannot make scientific decisions without data. So, and for Proshare, yes, we will be happy to share data with Proshare, because if you have data and you don't share it to the world, how people understand what you're doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people need to know and take the scientific data, but then maybe later when we are fully established and people know the data, we'll not start squeezing to say, no, we want X, we want Y. Yeah, but we need that, and we need the data to be out there in the world. In the global space for commodities, when they come to Nigeria and they want data, most of the time, the only place that they can get verifiable data for now is the National NBS, National Bureau of Statistics. And NBS actually is supposed to be sourcing data from institutions like the commodities space to see market prices, market movement, the trends, the outlook, and all that. So we're hoping that we'll be able to partner with them, Proshare, and they'll be able to keep pushing this information out, particularly for the Gen Zs, to be able to have access to information, and also for the new assets that are in place, like the cocoa butter that are coming up, the lithium that they want to participate, the tin, the gold that they want to do it. They want to understand it, and don't underrate them. They are savvy investors also.
Yes, they are.
They want to understand what is the transaction dynamics, what is the benefits, what is the exposure, and immediately they finish speaking to you, they are doing a comparative analysis with the global space.
Yes.
And when they are doing a comparative analysis with the global space, they actually don't have to start doing any analysis. They will just take ChatGPT and ask Nigeria's gold, compare it with, and now we'll tell them everything. So effectively, you and me, we are going to be competing with ChatGPT to be able to tell everybody the right information.
Yeah. 1 hour, 17 minutes of very interesting conversations on commodities exchanges and how they can help unlock economic opportunities. Very interesting time. Thank you very much, Mr. Akinsola Akeredolu-Ale, CEO of the Lagos Commodities and Futures Exchange, for this very interesting conversation on how best to use our local commodities exchanges to foster national economic productivity. Thank you once again for the time and so much insights on how we can leverage this to unlock economic opportunities. And thank you, Mr. Testish.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Proshare, for also helping to bring very interesting questions and insights to this. To our viewers, you can log on to our website to get further insights on this conversation, on the Proshare Hard Facts session, and of course, learn more on what the commodities exchanges can do to deepen our economy. I'm Otoba Sebaseko. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching, and bye for now.